scientifically, physiologically, what motherhood has actually done to us is so different
Right, it's the opposite,
than the
probably.
perception. Like,
Yeah.
we became more efficient. We
Yeah.
became more empathetic. We are more courageous. We are better leaders. Like, parenthood's actually a masterclass on leadership.
Sure.
It blows my mind. I'm like, okay, so moms need a rebrand.
All right, this is the Token CEO podcast. This is episode 267. I'm Erika. I'm the CEO of Barstool Sports. We have Paula Faris joining us today. She wrote a book that says you don't have to carry it all. We had an episode not too long ago where we talked about being a working mom and people went bananas for it. So we thought we would have Paula here talking about what she's observed, what she's written, and why June Cleaver has absolutely screwed all of us. So that's today's episode. Before we get into it, let's say a big thank you to Omega Accounting Solutions. So Omega Accounting Solutions is a friend of Working Mom. It is especially a friend of working moms who own small businesses that employed people during COVID. So if you have a small business and you employed people during COVID, which was no small feat, you are eligible for something called the Employee Retention Credit. What's the Employee Retention Credit? The Employee Retention Credit allows you to get up to $26,000 back per employee from the U.S. government by virtue of having employed those people during COVID. To find out more, you can call 1-855-505-DAVE. That's 1-855-505-DAVE, or visit omegataxcredits.com/barstoolsports now. Okay, Paula, tell us who you are, what you do, why you're here.
So my name's Paula Faris. Yep. And some people might know me from my days in journalism. I anchored Good Morning America weekends. I co-hosted The View. And like a lot of other moms, the pandemic forced me out of a job and forced me to make a decision. And it was at that point.
Why? Because this is ABC, right?
This is ABC News.
So ABC is like, there's no job. We're not doing the weekend show,
They chose
Paula.
not to. No, I stepped away from the weekends and The View in 2018 because I was burnt out.
Yeah,
Erika. I was like, I can't. When I was working, I felt like I should be momming. It's that tension we carry, and then you get to the top, and you're like, I don't like who I am. I can't do it all. And so I pumped the brakes in 2018. I stepped into a much less prestigious position as a general correspondent.
Yep.
And then a year later, I wasn't re-signed.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Still doing great work, but wasn't re-signed.
Okay.
So like a lot of moms had to make a decision at the beginning of the pandemic. What am I going to do next?
That's right.
We decided to kind of blow up our lives and moved to a small town in South Carolina. And it had been on my heart for a long time to advocate for mothers in the workplace based on my experience, the experience of other moms in the workplace, the struggle. And then just realizing like it is fact, not feeling, that once you become a mother, you are paid less, you're valued less, you're scrutinized more. You're paid 70 cents on the dollar once you become a mom compared to fathers.
Okay, so if you're a woman, you're paid less.
If you're a woman, you're paid less. And if you're a mother,
God forbid you have a child, then you're paid even less than that.
And God forbid you're a mother of color and you're paid even less than that. And so I started to see all these inequities. And as a journalist, I'm like, I'm not always trying to find like
the truth,
right?
Yep.
I'm like, this makes no sense. And why are mothers more burnt out than they ever have been? Why are we not valued?
Yeah.
Why are we scrutinized? Why are we punished for furthering the human race?
Right.
Without us populating the human race, we don't have a labor market.
Labor
and if we don't have a labor force, we can't grow an economy.
Sure.
So it's like, this is a huge story. Mothers shouldn't be marginalized. So I decided to form a media company, Carry Media. Don't know anything about being an entrepreneur.
That's okay.
Don't know anything about being a founder, but I had a passion. Founded Carry Media about a year and a half ago, and carry just means we want to help carry women, carry mothers, because they're carrying so much.
Things forward.
So wrote the book. You don't have to carry it. I'll ditch the mom.
Which is great.
A better way forward. And it's about like how we can give working moms the support they need, but also the why.
So why is it? Why is it that you're discriminated against more once you have a kid?
See what I found, and I had a chance to put on my journalist hat and keep my mom hat on. And talk to researchers and historians and sociologists and moms from all walks and some of the most renowned thought leaders to figure out like, why? How did women in our country go from describing themselves as hardworking and industrious and resourceful to burned out, broken? And so it's peeling back those layers. There was a lot of research, a lot of history, and it was just really fascinating. Get back to your question. What was it?
So what is like, why is it that women
What I found too is we're treated like a risk and a liability once we have kids, Erika. And there's this perception versus the reality. I almost feel like motherhood needs a rebrand.
Okay.
Because there's a perception of, oh, you had a kid? You're not committed anymore. You're a risk in your life. You're counting Cheerios in the corner, aren't you? Right?
You're not going to work as hard.
But then there's the reality. What I found scientifically, physiologically, what motherhood has actually done to us is so different
right, so opposite,
than the
probably.
perception. Like, we became more efficient. We became more empathetic. We are more courageous. We are better leaders. Like, parenthood's actually a masterclass on leadership.
Sure.
It blows my mind. I'm like, okay, so moms need a rebrand. Because here's the perception. And here's the reality. So I want to do something about it.
That's great.
Yep.
It's so funny. I was reading today that childcare, I mean, obviously childcare in the pandemic was such a problem. And it was forced so many women, I think, to stop working because somebody had to stay home with the kids.
And if you're making 70 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, of course. It's going to be your job.
It's going to be your job, right?
But then it was also, I was also reading that now companies are trying to put childcare in the companies themselves because finding childcare is so difficult.
Yes. I mean, the average cost of daycare is the same as in-state tuition for 1 year, which is ludicrous.
That's a lot.
We've seen wages have been stagnant for the last couple of decades, but childcare is through the roof. And I think childcare is one of the ways that companies can incentivize this next generation and also families. And if you take care of families, if you take care of mothers, they're the most efficient, productive, loyal employee.
Your company will be taken care of.
So take care of them. But also, we need to invest in childcare. Did you know we actually had a nationalized childcare program at one point after World War II?
Oh, really? Interesting.
Put it together in weeks, a matter of a couple of weeks. And then the GIs came home.
So that women could work while the men were away.
Exactly. We actually did have one. It was called the Lanham Act years ago.
And then the men came home and they were like, all right, you guys can go back into the kitchen.
They said, no, they literally pushed women out of the workplace.
Home. Yeah.
The 1950s really screwed us over. I dig into the history, which was so fascinating. I realized I had a ton of blind spots about family in general. Like, I think we all romanticize the 1950s. A lot of us do. And I realized the 1950s, like, created this bifurcation. The men work, that's their one job. The women nurture, that's their one job. If you had any ambitions outside of the home, you were called a menace. And for men, it was almost evil what we did to them and say, your only job is to bring home a paycheck. So we pushed them out of the home. But what was good for part of the people, part of the time in the 50s was based on awful things I learned. Like, blacks weren't allowed in the workplace. They were kicked out of the workplace. Women were essentially kicked out of the workplace. You saw Mad Men. Men came home with lipstick on their collar. What were the women going to do? Get a job? And if they
you couldn't get a job.
Couldn't get a job, and if you did, you made nothing. Rape was still legal in marriage. Poverty, a third of the country was in poverty. We treated immigrants horribly, and we had a teenage pregnancy boom. And I was like, I didn't know any of this.
No, I would know nothing.
And so,
that's interesting.
I was like, we don't want to go back to the 1950s. So it was really fascinating for me. But I think childcare is an incredible way to incentivize some of the most loyal, productive employees that you're going to ever get. Families are loyal; they don't leave. The cost of business is crazy.
It's
but
so
we're
funny.
either about kids or we're not. Kids are either our future or they're not. So let's back it up.
100%. The other interesting thing was that we're in such a labor shortage right now because, well, for many reasons, but one is this is the smallest generation of 18-year-olds in history.
Okay, this is the issue. And this is why this is an everybody issue to take care of families and mothers. And we're seeing it, like you just mentioned. If we make it more difficult on families to have kids, we're going to have fewer children. Fewer children equal a labor shortage. Labor shortage equal what we're in right now. So that's what I'm like. It benefits all of us to support families. Because it's not just the right thing to do. It benefits the economy. I'm glad you pointed that out. Because some people don't, they don't understand it.
It's funny. It's all related. It's all interconnected. I think the other thing, so it's funny how you describe the 50s. Like if you were to describe women or gender, right, and as it relates to the workplace right now, so what would you call this? We're in the 2020s. Right, we're in the 2020s. So, I'll tell you
Gen Z population.
I'll tell you how I would describe it. I think that the American family is very stressed. I think that the gender boundaries have shifted a little bit. Women are earning more, they're working more proportionally, but they're still carrying the load for the two jobs. Like the two jobs sucks. Like, and you know how it is. Like anybody who's a working mom, you like, I'll give you an example. I got on the train this morning, then I had to talk to the guidance counselor. Then I had to meet a sales guy that works here at the clock at the train station. So I'm still on with the guidance counselor. I don't really want him to hear what I'm talking to the guidance counselor about, but I'm like, shit, then I'm moving into work mode and whatnot. So I think American women are stressed. The other thing that I think is so debilitating right now is there's something, this need to achieve in women. I love, I think the drive that women have is amazing, but the go to work, go home, work all day, have stress at work, everything that happens at work, rush home, you're shoving food in your kid's face, you're barely feeding yourself, and then you get back online to do work. I see this all the time. I hate that life. I had that life, and it was really shitty.
Same. And that's why, I'm really glad that I lost my job. It's the best thing that ever happened to me, because my why is I want to be present for my kids. I want to hustle hard. Okay, so here's how I see it. It's tougher to be a mother in America than ever before. There is proof that there is a happy gap between being a parent and a non-parent is the largest in America than is anywhere else. It is a stress and strain to raise children in America because our society was not set up it wasn't set up to support families. So in other countries, yes, they're dealing with war and famine and poverty, but women don't have a choice but to work. They take a great amount of pride, but then they have two things. They have attitudes are different and they have policies are different. So the attitudes in their communities are, I am my brother's keeper. So even if they don't have a child, they have a vested interest in raising this next generation because they're our future. And then they have a ton of policy support. So it's not a stress and a strain. It's no surprise that we're at record numbers of burnout. We're working 98 hours a week on average between work and then we come home. We are the default everything. We're trying to carry it all because June Cleaver screwed us over in the 1950s.
And you want to feel like you look good and you want to be sexy for your husband. You're fucked.
And we don't ask for help because we're weak or we're a failure. Exactly. So it's just, I write about it in the book. I was interviewing a mother of four in Chicago, and she had exchange students come in from all around the country. And she said their number one feedback was, why do American mothers work harder than anybody else? They're trying to carry it all. They're trying to do it all. So much of it is this expectation that we should, that we want to be a mommy martyr, and we're weaker or we're failure.
So we're going to take a quick break from Paula to talk about MVMT. MVMT makes incredibly high quality watches. So if you're running around, you're a working mom, you got to get your kids here, you got to get your partner there, you got to get work, somebody's bothering you, your Slack's going off, your text messages are getting blown up, you're probably wondering what time it is. Get an MVMT watch. Life is too short to settle for the same old things. MVMT keeps your look and your lifestyle fresh with clean watches at prices that won't make you rework your budget. Moms love that. MVMT, little known fact, was created by a small team of dreamers from Venice, California. They've perfected a sleek, original, and ultra clean watch design. It's a statement piece. They're fresh, they're modern, they look great, and best yet, they work. If you go to MVMT.com and use code TOKEN, you can get 20% off a watch now. Make your everyday sidekick for your life a movement watch. That's MVMT.com, code TOKEN, for 20% off.
I think what really, in the research that I've done, and even taking it a step further than the research that I did in this book, since publishing the book, I think the way that we really create equality, gender equality, is by establishing paternity leave. And you're like, okay, why? Here's why. Not only, and I'm saying mandatory paternity leave.
Same as you would get maternity leave.
Yes. Yep. Because number one, it increases the bond with the child. Number two, it's been shown to mitigate postpartum depression and increase the relationship with your partner. But number three, who's the default? It's always the mom.
Yeah, that's right.
It levels the field. It levels the playing field out of the gate at work and at home.
Yeah, we're in this together.
We're in this together. The mom's not the default anymore.
Yeah, that's right. That's interesting.
I think and weirdly, you're like, okay, we need maternity leave. We need more for mom. She already has enough on her plate. Yeah. We need to spread it around.
Get the partner in here too.
Yes,
that's
and again, we have to realize, we can't do this without men. I have a whole chapter dedicated to inviting them in this conversation. and they've been told that their only job is to provide, and they're a failure if they don't provide. They've been told to be a real man. They've been told to be a good man. Those are two totally different things. So like they're coming into the conversation already intimidated and dealing with their own set of toxic expectations from culture. So paternity leave, I honestly think it's the answer.
That's really
and more
smart.
mothers in leadership.
Yep.
Not just women. Mothers.
Moms. Yep.
Because we just GSD. We get it done.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
we have unique, like we're incredible leaders. Parenthood is a masterclass on leadership.
For sure.
We just see things differently. It is, motherhood changes us.
Yeah, for
we're
sure.
Courageous.
It makes
empathetic.
you more empathetic.
Yeah, you're a better leader. So
yeah, it also makes you, I think, it gives you perspective.
100%.
I think that it gives you, it's so funny. We're doing an offsite next week, and we have some moms on our team who are single moms. We have some moms who have partners. We have some moms who have good childcare situations and don't have, and the stress to go to a 3-day offsite if you are a mom, it's very stressful. Like,
and who's dealing with it? Who's coordinating everything?
The mom is. Like,
exactly.
And it creates a lot of, like, I live that stress of, like, how am I going to get, like, I was on a plane last night. My kids are at home. I'm like, I've got one babysitter switching off to another baby. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of.
And yet at some point, we almost wear that as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Look at everything I'm doing. And I'm like, yeah, no wonder we're burnt out as hell.
Yeah, that's right.
We've got to stop trying to carry it all.
What's your recommendation to moms on like the mom guilt of it all? Like, personally, I really liked having other people help me raise our kids because I felt like they'll learn from someone new, and there are people that are better at 1,000 things than I am, including having patience with young people, and by that I mean kids. But but I know that there's a lot of guilty feeling that comes with that of like, I'm not doing my job and somebody else is doing it better, or my kid's friend is loved more because the mom is around. Like,
it all comes back to the 1950s. It's all June Cleaver's fault because we have to be this perfect mom.
Yep.
And there's this unrealistic, unhealthy expectation of what it means to be a mother in America, and we can never reach that. Almost every mother in America is feeling some level of mom guilt.
Yeah.
So they're not alone. But what I learned in writing the book is that mom guilt's essentially an American thing. Mothers globally don't really even understand.
They don't have mom guilt that way.
Because, and we mentioned it earlier, they not only have to work, they don't have a choice. And that's the thing, like it's a privilege.
It's not considered
it's a privilege to even have the opportunity to stay home. And most moms are working today because they have to. 70% will be the primary breadwinner in their children's lives. But they have such a different perspective on work. They don't feel guilt, and there's support. Support from the community, because they're all vested in raising these children, support from policy. So I learned that not only is mom guilt an American thing, really, and most of us feel it, it's this internal mechanism that we're just like destroying ourselves because we don't have like a realistic measuring stick. I actually just wrote what we would call a lead magnet, like a guide on this and how to ditch it, and deal with it a ton in the book too. And like the children of working moms, the sons grow up to be better partners because we think we're harming our children. And
you're actually helping their
I carried so much of that guilt because I had a stay-at-home mom, and I also grew up. I write about it a teeny bit in the book, like what my faith said about women and our roles. It really diminished, and so I struggled with a lot of that tension.
Yep.
But realizing working isn't harming your kids, it's actually doing the opposite because you're introducing them to other wonderful people that can influence them. Like you said, you're expanding their circle. Mothers of working daughters are confident and go on to be in management positions. The sons of working mothers grow up to be better partners and better fathers.
Sure.
And we also have to be careful, like, how we talk about it. Kids have mirror neurons. So if you're like, work's the worst thing ever, they're going to say, Mommy, why is work always taking you away? But if you say, look at this great opportunity. And I've learned, and this is the very first time I've ever traveled for work where I didn't feel any guilt.
This trip now?
Yes.
Why?
Because I asked for help and I didn't feel bad about it.
Yep.
I actually have a young single friend, no kids, who's Ubering my oldest daughter around.
Great.
I invited my kids into the conversation because I said, if this is going to work,
like we're all doing this.
We're all doing. Is this an acceptable amount of travel?
Yeah.
Are you guys good with this? And then I tell them, hey, I get an opportunity to go change the game for moms. I get an opportunity to talk about this passion on my life. I want a better future for you. And so I've invited them into the conversation.
Interesting.
Instead
including
of,
the vision for what you're doing.
Sleeps. It's like, look at all these great things.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And I have a great spouse who has come a long way.
Yeah.
But he's like, it's all handled. We've got our community around us. We ask for help.
We got this.
Yeah. So
that's smart
really
to make
freeing.
your kids a part of it. That's a great.
I learned that from a friend. She's
That's
like,
smart.
invite your kids into the conversation and say, is this an acceptable amount of travel? Because we have to be in it. Okay. And it has to work for everybody because we're all in it. And you're kind of on mission together as a family.
I also think one thing that it's funny, you and I have teens or preteens, and when you're a working mom, I think you tend to, the guilt manifests in indulgence, right?
Yes,
because
it does.
you want to hug them up because you don't see them all day, or you're grasping for time. And one thing it's kind of interesting that I'm really working on is like, how do you make these kids more accountable? And how do you, resist the urge, the way you take care of work, where you take care of everybody, you solve all their problems, you make things work. How do you not do that for your child? So how do you think about that?
Yeah, I really studied parenting styles, global parenting styles. And I think, yes, it's no surprise that we have kids that are very overindulged. Yeah. Because it's,
is that an American thing or is that an everybody
thing? It's very much an American thing.
Sucks.
It's much more here than anywhere else. And I learned a lot from the French culture. Actually, like they view frustration as a key component in the developmental process of the child. They need to learn how to accept no. And they need to learn how to be frustrated.
They need to be frustrated or
bored. They need to be
frustrated.
Because, you've heard of, I don't know if you've heard of this term, it's called hothouse children, which is not flattering, or helicopter parenting. It's actually making us mentally unwell to raise our children this way. And we're raising children who can earn but can't empathize, and who can perform but can't perceive. We need to allow our kids to be frustrated, okay? How to deal with it, how to fail forward.
How to figure shit out.
Yes. True. It's so true. But a lot of that, we're like, oh, but I should be there for, you don't have to be there for every single moment. You know? You're like, that's just not realistic. And that's not how it works in other countries. And their kids are fine. But we're putting that out there so our kids pick up on it because of the mirror neurons. So we have to be careful how we talk about it. So
interesting.
Yeah.
All right. How do people find you? Where do people find the book?
Okay. The book is called You Don't Have to Carry It All, Ditch the Mom Guilt and Find a Better Way Forward. #1 new release in motherhood. So excited because
awesome, congratulations.
I just have women telling me they feel seen and heard. That's what it's about. Great. I want it to be a movement, a rallying cry. It's not about the book. It's let's turn this into a movement and change the game. But you can find the book anywhere books are sold.
Okay, great.
And you can keep up with me on Instagram at Paula Faris, and I'd love to hear from you. So.
Awesome. That's it for today's episode. Thank you for listening, and we will be back here next week with Q&A and with Allie Love.